Hey everybody, Epic Eddie here, and we're here for another Real Talk Tuesday. I'm super excited to be here with you guys again. Oh, if you have not, make sure that you hit the like button on this video. If you wind up getting anything from it, definitely hit the like. And also, if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the videos and Real Talk Tuesdays and other stuff that's coming up in the future. But I do want to thank those who have done it already. It's been an exciting journey so far. We can't start a Real Talk Tuesday without any tequila. So today we're going we're going with some leftovers that I had. So I'm actually going with good old Jose Cuervo Gold, actually, a Special Gold. I had a little bit left, so we're gonna just go ahead with that. Yeah, I guess we'll finish it. All right. Ooh. Well, Jose is Jose. It's going to get the job done, but also, decently priced. So we're going to get into it today. As fate would have it, sometimes life throws you things and makes you have to switch things up. I was going to talk about something else, which I guess I'll save for next week. But this week I wanted to talk about communication. And the reason for that actually was mainly because of my little brother. Big shout out to my little brother, the youngest one. Heart of gold, man. Heart of gold, this kid. The reason I want to talk about this is because earlier this morning he had given me a call or shot me a text. And he wanted to talk to me about some things that was on his mind. We had a great conversation about it and, cleared up some things, but he was not afraid to let me know how he was feeling, and that was a good thing. Because I had no clue, and, I've been dealing with my own stuff too, and he had no clue. So it was a good talk. But that was one of the things that we decided we needed to do, was make sure that we communicate a little bit more and spend some more time carving out time for each other, especially being across the country from each other. With my family living on the East Coast, it's really hard to get back and forth for all of us. With technology today, there's no excuse. So we need to make sure we make the time. So I'm glad that he hit me with that because, I'm a big advocate of making sure people communicate. They always say communication is the key to any relationship, whether it be an actual romantic relationship, family relationship, friendship. And I very much am a big advocate of that. But at the same time, Eddie's not perfect. So I'm glad that he was able to reach out to me and we were able to talk because that was much needed. So what I wanted to get to was about communication. And this is something that I usually am very good at, but again, not perfect. But sometimes that's part of this whole thing, is to go back over things to remind ourselves what we're missing or what we could do better on. That includes me. So what I want to do is give you guys 5 good tips or tricks to just communicating better with each other. So that all being said, the first thing is to not be afraid to approach somebody with how you're feeling. Part of the reason people don't really communicate with each other well is just because they're really afraid of the response or the outcome or how other person might feel or to express their own feelings. But you can't communicate with anybody if you don't talk. And so that's the first big thing, is getting past that fear, because you never know how that outcome's going to be. You don't know. And I know sometimes that's the scary part about it, is not knowing how the outcome is going to come out. But at the end of the day, if you don't let these things out, they're going to just fester inside you and tear you up from the inside. And then you're dealing with a whole lot more internally. And that's a lot of the reasons why people, when they finally do communicate, can't do it well, or they, wind up lashing out at each other. And it's because they just hold all that stuff inside. So you can't get that stuff out if you don't take the time to actually do it. That actually kind of is a great segue to my second tip, and that is actually to control your emotions. It's really easy, especially if you're upset, or especially if you're nervous, or if you're mad, to just blurt all these things out and talk to somebody in an angry manner, or talk to them just any kind of way. The problem with doing that, though, is when you're trying to communicate something with someone, if you're coming at them in an angry tone, or coming at them sideways, or coming at them mean or aggressive, 9 times out of 10, those people are not going to hear anything of what you're saying. That person is going to immediately throw up their walls and defenses because the way that you're approaching them with your tone. It's shown in studies. that you communicate mostly with your body language. Then after that, it's your tonality, how you say things, and then you're getting into the actual words that you're saying. And so people communicate with everything else before it's actually the actual words that they say. So that being said, if you're coming aggressive towards somebody, they're going to throw their walls up and they're not going to hear what you're wanting to say to them or convey to them. So make sure if you're feeling like you might not be able to control those emotions, maybe you need to not approach them with those things right away. Maybe you need to take a minute or two. Maybe it's an hour or two. Maybe it's a day or two. But take some time to kind of cool your head, level off, and then go to them and say, hey, you know that thing that happened, such and such date or earlier today or a few hours ago? Yeah, that really made me feel XYZ. And when you can communicate that on a level head, they're more inclined to hear what you're saying and be able to kind of sympathize or empathize with how you're feeling. But that kind of also brings me to my third point. For them to be able to understand and empathize where you're coming from, you have to be able to understand and empathize where they're coming from. But you can't understand where they're coming from if you don't ask questions. So rule number 3 is ask questions about what's going on. You can't assume everything because you don't know everything. There's always many sides to a story. There's always many things going on in the background that you may not know. And the problem is if you try to assume, all of your feelings and all of your thought processes are based on the information that you don't know. Information is key. Being able to get that information from them about what's going on their side may clear up a little bit of the feelings on your own side. You may have felt one way because you thought this was the case, but once you find out that was not the case, well then maybe you might not feel that way anymore. So that's why it's super important for you to ask questions about the situation. Hey, I was just wondering why you did that. Hey, I was wondering why this happened and you didn't have my back. How were you able to do this and this and this, but not be able to spend time with me? And those are things you need to be able to straight up ask. And it kind of goes to, back to number 1, where not being afraid to ask the hard questions. You can't get the answers you want to something if you don't actually ask. Get the courage to ask the questions you need. And you can't move on or move forward or deal with those emotions if you don't wind up with the answers. And then that kind of brings me to number 4. Listen to understand, not to respond. So when you're asking questions, they're going to respond. And when they respond to you, you need to actually listen. What I mean by that is people have a tendency to listen to what someone else is saying just so that they can start thinking about how they're going to respond to that or what they're saying. When you listen in that way, you're listening in defensive mode. You're not listening to what they're actually saying. You're not sympathizing to what they're actually saying or empathizing what they're actually saying. You're just listening to the words that they're saying so that you can come back with a retort. You can come back with a rebuttal. You can come back with, whatever you're going to say. When you do it that way, you're not really listening to the person. I'm sure there's been many times where you've been sitting there and then you immediately respond to somebody and they're like, well, you're not listening. You're hearing them, but you're not listening to them. Actively listen. Listen to understand where they're coming from. And then when they finish their thought or their point, then gather your thoughts and your points and then go ahead and respond. Because you know what? Sometimes they may have answered the question that you were looking for or maybe even answered their own question if you allowed them to just kind of talk it through. So before I get into the 5th one, let me kind of go over this again. First, don't be afraid to voice how you feel. You can't start the communication process if you're too afraid to initiate the conversation in the first place. 2, make sure you control your emotions. Again, no one's going to hear you if you're coming at them aggressively. You need to be able to talk to them in a calm manner so they can actually hear what you're saying. 3, make sure you ask questions. A lot of the times the communication is off because we don't understand where the other person is coming from. If you can begin to understand where they're coming from, it may make you feel a different way. And 4, listen to understand, not to respond. When you're listening to somebody, make sure you're listening to what they're actually saying to you. Empathize, understand what they're saying before you respond, because you can't give them a proper response if you don't actually understand where they're actually coming from. Now, the last one, the 5th one, which I think is the most important, is coming to terms and realizing that no matter what the outcome is, that's the outcome. What I mean by that is this. Sometimes when we communicate with each other, even if it's really good communication and we're understanding where each other are coming from, sometimes we're not going to get the results that we want. And that's an unfortunate fact, but it's going to happen. We're people. While we're very similar in very many ways, we're also different in a lot of ways too. And no matter how much that person is close to you, how much you love them, how much you care, there's going to come times where you're just not going to agree on things, or where you see things completely different. And sometimes it may not just work. And sometimes you have to agree to disagree. Or sometimes no matter how much you try to communicate, it just doesn't get through to them. But it's the reality. Or sometimes you're going to get them to finally communicate, but you're going to get an answer you don't really like. And it's an unfortunate thing, but if it's the truth, then it's the truth. And it sucks because I guess some people can't handle the truth. But I'm the type of person that I'd rather know the cards I'm dealt with, what's going on in the situation, than to not know anything at all. Because if I can know what I'm going with, what I'm dealing with, by communicating with a person and straight up asking them the things that I need to know, then once I get the information, I can decide with proper information which way I want to go. Say I'm trying to talk to a girl and, I want to spend time with her, but she's just kind of ducking and dodging. Well, then sometimes I'll just straight out and go, hey, if you're not really trying to spend some time with me, if you're not really feeling this, let me know. Now, sometimes it might just be, nope, this is going on and this is going on. But if their actions are saying different, then I'll start to kind of really pull it out. Hey, well, this is what you're doing. This is what you're saying. It's not matching. So help me understand. And there may be times, and it's happened before, where they're just like, well, I guess I'm just not really that interested. That's a hard thing to hear. Yeah. Sucks sometimes, but at the end of the day, life goes on. And now I can make a proper decision of whether I want to continue to try to make time with that person if, hey, they're not interested in me that way, but hey, we could still be friends and still hang out. Or if you're just like, well, I'm feeling a different way, and if you're not making the effort and I don't want to make the effort, then I'm just not going to make it anymore. And that's okay too. But knowing the information is the important part. If I'm angry with someone because I think they said something a certain way that I took wrong, or at least I thought I took it wrong, but it just really hurt my feelings, and I go to them and I communicate with them that, and then come to find out they actually meant it that way, then I have the information. I know they meant it that way, but now I have a choice. I can either say, hey, let me try to understand why you would say that, or maybe there was something I did, or maybe they're just being an ass and they felt like they were going to be that way and say that. And now I'm like, well, I don't want to be involved with this person anymore. This is not somebody I want in my life if they're going to be like that. Those are choices you get to make. And then you also have to realize sometimes there might be some changes in yourself that you need to make. Sometimes when people communicate these things to you, while they're not the answer that you really wanted or hoped for, it could be a reflection so that you can actually see what maybe some things that you're doing that you can probably change in your own life. I never take it as a bad thing when I maybe get information or get a response that I was hoping not to hear or wasn't expecting. But at the end of the day, it's a learning lesson, because you're going to be able to move through your life with actual proper information and be able to move on or change something in you, or be able to mend that relationship or fix whatever problem there might be. But that's why communication is so important, because you can't get to that point if you don't communicate. Like I said, it's an important thing for any kind of relationship. I mean, this is helpful if you're with someone romantically. You need to talk about those things, especially, talk about the things in relationships. I don't care what it might be, whether it's your finances, whether it's sex or the lack thereof, or whether it's maybe one day having kids, or it's your social life. Talk about those things so that you guys can get on the same page. A lot of relationships wind up ending because they just really didn't communicate about things. They weren't completely open about stuff. I think it's less that they don't like the same things or are willing to compromise. Just a lot of times they just don't know because they don't talk about it, and they just let it fester, and then all of a sudden they're arguing all the time, and then it gets to a point where it's just kind of too late because you were just on two completely different pages. And so when you're that far apart, it's hard to get back to the middle. But if you find yourself in this place and you start moving apart, as you begin to communicate, it's easier to kind of bring that back and mend that together. Same things go with friendships. I always tell, really, really good friends, the family get to choose. So, I mean, those are going to be the people that you need to make sure you make the time for, make the effort for, especially because friends don't have any blood relation obligation to you and they don't have any sexual, I guess some do. I guess some are sexual friends, but I mean, they don't have a relationship kind of commitment to you, So those are people that actually are saying, hey, I care about you. I don't have any kind of underlying obligation to be in your life, but I care about you. So, and you care about me, so we're gonna take care of each other. And because of that, those are relationships you really need to work to make sure that you maintain. And again, one of those big things is communication. Now, there are some friends we might not talk for years, and then all of a sudden we talk again, and we're right back where we picked off. There's some that you see on a daily basis, so that you deal with more, so you need to communicate a little bit more. But regardless, making sure that you communicate with each other, that's important. And of course, family, man, one of the most important things to me. But again, family's not perfect. We're people too. And it's sometimes hard, almost harder with family to communicate because one, we know so much about each other because we've grown our lives up with each other. And as we've grown and we've changed through age, sometimes we grow apart. And not that we don't care about each other, but as people, our lives have kind of taken us in different directions. And now we've changed and become different people. And now the people that we know each other from before are a bit different, And then family, we always feel like we're always there and there's obligations that we need to do for each other. And because of that, I think sometimes we take that communication for granted. And so I think that's why it's even more so important to make sure you communicate with your family. And that's why I'm so thankful for my brother to hit me up this morning and talk about the things we did. I'm not going to go into you guys about that stuff. That's between us. But at the end of the day, it's important to again get in and touch base. And this year, all of us have had just such a rough year this year. All the corona, and then our mom passing, and then jobs craziness, and it's just been tough. One of the things my brother said to me was it just was made more evident to him that just we need to get to know each other more as the men that we've become now. And I know that took a lot for him to come out and say that. He took the initiative, just like step one. He voiced how he felt. He asked questions from me of why did you feel this way, or why can you do this and not this? And I explained my situation too, and he did actually listen. He said, I understand now, because there's a lot of things that go on in my everyday life that I don't show on my social media because one, some of it's just boring, and two, I can't be on here every day all the time 24/7. So there's aspects of my life that not everybody sees, and that includes my family. He controlled his emotions. He didn't come at me sideways or anything. He actually listened to me, and luckily for us, the response that we had at the end was something that wound up turning out really great between the two of us. It came to a resolution of, hey, well, maybe we need to make some time each week to make sure we talk with each other so that we can start to build that relationship and continue to bring it stronger. And that's the beauty of communication, is that happens sometimes. Sometimes it works out amazing because you didn't know where they were coming from. You didn't get to express your feelings, and all of a sudden, boom, you're having problems. But when you get to express how you feel, you get to hear how they feel, you get to learn why there's this conflict, and then come up with some kind of resolution to make it better. That's the beauty of it. I hope that you guys got something from this because it definitely was something great for me. I wanted to talk about, and then also just a great reminder for me to kind of help with that communication and stuff, man. So I want to thank you guys all again for following me. I'm still working on some of my other projects and finding the right way to kind of put them out. Again, if you have not done it yet, follow my Facebook page, and you can comment either there or in below in the comment section on this video, and just let me know some of the questions and things and topics you want to talk about, whether they are going to be about just something that you're dealing with that if I can talk on it, I will, or for the personal questions about me and my life, and you want to know more about me and what the hell I do and what's going on in my life, then I'm fine with that too. And I'll answer those questions once I get enough. I think I've gotten a decent amount, but I want to get another good chunk. That way I can talk about the things that you guys want to hear about. Thank you guys so much. I'm thankful to have you guys follow me through this journey. Here's to many more episodes. Here's to building this community of people and making sure we can actually connect. Here's to my brothers, my family. Love you guys. Thank you guys. And as we all know, man, life's short. Make it epic. Cheers. That's a wrap.